So I just went out and basically rewatched the entirety of Game 3 of the NBA Western Conference Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I've come up with a short list of 10 things that really need to be noticed ahead of Game 4, which you might want to know in case you're a betting man, just saying. Now, first thing, Game 3, let's talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, it is kind of sad to say because I am one of his biggest fans, but he did play like quite a big shell of himself in this game. We did see him struggle quite a bit, which I have to attribute to Jaden McDaniels' form on defense. Mainly because Jaden was playing the smartest defense I've seen, which is you don't need to worry about getting a turnover from the other team or stealing the ball or blocking the ball. Your main emphasis on defense should be forcing up a bad shot that leads to a rebound or forcing them into a bad situation that leads into a turnover. It doesn't need to be a steal or a block, and that's what we saw from Jaden. Now, obviously, he did decide to play a little bit of drop coverage, ensuing to not really pick up SGA from half court or anything closer. A lot of his defense was played by staying back and basically picking him up once he reached about the three-point line, which is genius because you know one thing about Shai, he's trying to get you in a downhill situation, and when he does, he literally worms his way through a screen and either pulls up at mid or gets to the basket, forcing the big to have him to play help in a bad look. So I wouldn't expect the same sort of situation in Game 3. It all depends on how the Thunder play it. More than anything, the next game will really show us how good the Oklahoma City Thunder coach is because, yeah, you can't have this happen. Now, fortunately, that leads into point number 2. SGA needs to get off the ball and let someone else basically play point. Now, my key reason for this is with the Thunder knowing that the Timberwolves are going to play a lot of defense that includes dropping off SGA till he gets to the three-point line, it's probably best to let someone like Jalen Williams bring the ball up and have SGA get open off a down screen, because in any situation, you run that down screen. If Jalen McDaniels gets stuck on it, the one thing I was noticing throughout the entirety of Game 3, he's not trying to allow a switch. So if he does get stuck, SGA is going to have a little bit of space, in which case he can catch the ball, quickly pump fake a three, and get into his bag. Because again, Jalen will be late on defense, and as we know, that's the worst thing to be when playing basketball. So run him off a down screen, get him open. Jalen McDaniels is not switching, in which case he can catch the ball. But Rudy Gobert might try and play a little bit over the screen to ensure he can't get the pass, in which case it opens up a quick little cut to the basket for either Chet or Hartenstein. So that's one thing. You need to get SGA off the ball because, again, if they're playing drop coverage by picking him up at the three-point line, you're not going to get those nice little situations you like to get yourself into with the pick and roll. So yeah, that's point number 2. Now, point number 3 would be if your name is not SGA, you need to get creative, okay? Watching the entirety of this game, Jalen Williams, I'm sorry to say this, man. That little spearheaded attack of just running at the rim, that ain't going to work. You need to get in your bag of counters. You need to create shots off the dribble or anything. Because firstly, it allows you to get a lot of better looks because the defense gets scared of you. Secondly, it means that the defense has to work. You're getting people tired. It's a lot harder to play offense when you got tired legs from playing defense. And thirdly, the Oklahoma City Thunder in catch and shoot situations throughout the entirety of this game, they stunk. The one person who I think was doing kind of well was Dort, but that's mainly because, again, on the offensive side of the ball, teams aren't too scared of guarding him because, yeah, he might get a few shots here and there, but he's not a shooter whereby you really need to feel scared. So, yeah, someone else whose name is not SGA, get creative. Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins, as per usual, came off the bench, and they were trying to create here and there, but it more led to them kicking out to catch and shoot situations, which, as I said before, Oklahoma City really stunk in, shooting quite a bad percentage in those situations. Now, point number 4, which kind of kills me because they did start off the game like this, OKC needs to run a lot more on those big-on-big pick-and-roll situations. Now, early on in the game, we did see it occur once where OKC basically had Chet play ball handler, Hartenstein coming as the pick man, and they ran a pick-and-roll on Rudy and Julius Randle, which resulted in Chet basically throwing a lob to Hartenstein, I believe. And then in the second situation of this, we saw it where it was Naz Reid and Julius Randle playing the defensive coverage on the pick and roll. And again, Chet just got to the hole with ease. Now, the reason I say they need to run a lot more of these is Chet's a really good ball handler. Like, the one thing to really point out is Chet is really good at dribbling the ball, in which case he can handle any sort of pressure when he's being applied to him by a big. And secondly, in a big-on-big pick, Rudy Gobert is going to be on the other side of that. And the thing about it is, when it's a small guy, it makes sense for Rudy to drop because, again, foot speed wise, he can't keep up. But when it's a big, he's going to try and play up on it, and Chet's quicker than him. If you run this big on big situation, it's going to force the Timberwolves to have to start playing help. And if they start to play help, it's late recoveries on defense, which means a lot of open shots for shooters. I mean, obviously, you are struggling with the shooting situation when it comes to catch and shoot right now, but that puts you in a better situation than what you're having right now, which is constantly trying to spam a pick and roll of small guards or forwards with Chet or Hartenstein, which I'm not going to lie to you, when SGA wasn't able to worm around them, it wasn't working. And as for the other guys, such as Jalen Williams, anytime they got on the screen, Rudy Gobert was smart enough to really show, and they always retreated because I think they're trying to get into a situation where they could take him off the dribble. But fortunately for Rudy, the rest of his team was showing on the backside, meaning there were no cutting angles for the team to go through. Now, point number 5 fortunately leads to point number 6, which is play through Chet. Now, throughout the other series, you got to play through SGA and Jalen Williams, and it worked really well. But the key things to notice were when you're playing Memphis and Denver, none of them have perimeter defenders where we can really scream, this guy's a lockdown. You're kind of scared of him when you're out there on the wing. However, when you're playing Minnesota, Jalen McDaniels has clearly proven to you guys he can really play defense. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, not one of the greatest defenders in the league, but he is someone who can also really play defense. And Julius Randle, as much as I hate to say it, the boy can move his feet. So you're going to struggle when it comes to trying to play through the perimeter throughout the majority of the game. Which is why, again, you want to go through Chet. Now, Chet's going to have the matchup of having Rudy Gobert most likely guard him unless Hartenstein's on the floor. In which case, Rudy Gobert does not want to be out there with Chet at the perimeter. If it comes to run a lineup of Chet and Jalen Williams, mainly because Jalen can shoot the three, in which case it keeps the floor spread and there's no help for Rudy. And also because, as I've said before, Chet Holmgren can put the ball on the floor and really punish Rudy Gobert for this bad defense. So play through Chet if you really want to force a situation where you can create for the rest of your team. And secondly, it also benefits SGA because if the Timberwolves are noticing that Chet's able to cook Rudy one-on-one, they're going to play less help on the SGA situation and really force it into a situation where, yeah, everyone's playing man-to-man, in which case Jalen McDaniels is able to cover, but how well can he cover for an entire game when it's him alone on an island? Now, the next point I want to pull out is, even though I've been crucifying Rudy Gobert for how you can cook him on defense, in this game, with how bad the Oklahoma City Thunder's offensive scheme was, we saw Rudy Gobert play some of the most exquisite defense I've ever seen in my life. And yes, I'm using the word exquisite. The reason I'm using that, he was showing on screens. And when I say he was showing, I mean as in Rudy Gobert was stepping up to the point whereby anytime he saw SGA catch a screen, he knew one thing: he's trying to worm through it. So rather than playing that little drop coverage where you know he'll end up just stopping on a dime and pulling up, Rudy Gobert was stepping up and keeping a hand in his face in ways that it made it tough for SGA to basically create. And secondly, when he was noticing pick and roll situations where basically the offensive player wasn't trying to run at the rim, but more run wide to force their man to be late and obviously find themselves an open three-point shot or something, Rudy Gobert was stepping up to the point of basically pushing them far beyond the three-point line because he knew one thing: when you're that far out, they can't recover quick enough to get to a three-point shot. And even if they try and throw a pass, fortunately for him, he's tall enough whereby arms are up in the air. You either have to throw a lofted pass that allows time for interception, or you basically have to throw a pass through his hands, which allows for a deflection. So I gotta say, Rudy was playing some exquisite defense on that impact, and also offensively, he was doing something that was highly unappreciated, which was he was applying a lot of pressure on OKC on the glass. He was forcing them into bad turnovers, basically off missed rebounds, bad fouls when trying to box him out, and even the way he was getting good rebounds in general, because again, OKC's a bad catch and shoot team, as we saw in this game, and he was benefiting from that a lot on the glass. Now, the next thing to point out is Minnesota's bench, they got something special. Now, a lot of people talk about Terrence Shannon Jr. and the appearance he had in this game, managing to drop quite a respectable 15 points, shooting 5 of 8 from the field with 2 rebounds and 1 assist. However, my person to nominate in this game would happen to be Donte DiVincenzo, who contributed only 6 with 1 rebound and 3 assists. But the key reason I'm saying we should notice his contribution is Donte puts himself in the right situations. He finds himself in the right catch and shoot situations, and then defensively, as we know, he loves to stay in front of people, and we saw quite a bit of that. And another good thing for Minnesota with having Donte on the floor is he is a capable ball handler in his ability to bring the ball up, which allows for a lot of good situations for them in regards of that half-court offense. And also a lot of good situations in that at least you got two ball handlers on the floor whenever Dante DiVincenzo's on there. Because, yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's a good ball handler, but he ain't the guy you really want handling the ball like that. Now, the next point to point out is Anthony Edwards is a scary man from Game 3. And the reason I say he's scary is a lot of people will tell you in this game he was playing possessed. I'll tell you he wasn't. All right? This wasn't him playing at his greatest. This was him playing poised. And that was scary. The reason I say it was him playing poised is he wasn't making a bunch of shots where you'd go, ooh, that's something that you'd never expect to see from him. Or, oh, generally, everything we saw from him was stuff we would expect. I mean, one of the funniest things I saw was he shot a jump shot over 3 defenders at the same time. And yeah, they all caught that in their eyes. But he was playing poised enough whereby he was moving the ball around wherever it needed to be. He was taking jumpers as they came, i.e. if he saw a dropped coverage, he wasn't trying to do the thing of just barreling to the hole. He was pulling up. And if he saw you try and press up on him, he was creating space for his jumpers, shooting a lot of mids, a lot of threes, and also attacking the hole. And then defensively, he was being aggressive. That's one thing you always want from your superstar, and that on the defensive side of the ball, if you can be slightly aggressive, you can really force the other team into basically knowing we're not taking what you're giving us. We're basically going to push back and force you into situations that we know make you feel uncomfortable, and we're going to play our game over yours. So the fact that he was playing a poised game in Game 3, it makes me scared for the opportunity where he does play like a possessed man, because in Game 4, more likely than not, he's going to carry it over, play poised again. The only thing is, how well would that suit them? Now, the last and final point is discussing Game 4. Key things to note. Oklahoma City need to stop with the help defense. Throughout the entirety of this game, there's a lot of them playing help, which leads to a lot of late recoveries and basically a lot of shots that usually would be better contested, but they're not because these guys are just running everywhere. They were to the point whereby they were basically doubling even if they saw Rudy catch the ball in the paint, which makes no sense to me because even if Rudy catches the ball in the paint, you got to live with it. I'd live with that over then seeing freaking Dante DiVincenzo catch the ball out of 3, which happened on a Nickeil Alexander-Walker drive where they tried to double, and it made no sense to me because, again, you're basically leaving shooters open, and yeah, the Timberwolves have struggled a little bit in these playoffs when it comes to shooting threes, but you really need to play man-to-man and bet on yourselves defensively. Another thing to note is the Thunder are going to come in more aggressive in Game 4. Pause. All right? What we saw from them in Game 3, off the rip, they were playing like they were playing as though they were told to be there, but they didn't really want to be there. Now, Minnesota was playing like they wanted to be there, but OKC wasn't. So in Game 4, we should expect that OKC is going to come out with a knockout punch to start the game, just to basically say to Minnesota that, yeah, we are not your boys. Another thing, Julius Randle was effective in this game, but he wasn't the main contributor, which is kind of scary if I'm OKC. If you were expecting to lose this series, you're expecting that the main point of loss was going to be from the fact that you were getting harassed by Julius Randle. However, in this game, he took 15 shots for 24 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, which, yeah, it's quite a bit, but it's not what you're expecting. It wasn't these were shots where it's like, oh, we're forcing the ball to Julius so that you guys really have to struggle. No. These are purely he was taking shots that he was getting. Good shots. The main person who took shots was Anthony Edwards shooting 12 for 17. And then lastly but not least, Minnesota's size is causing the Thunder a lot of problems. I don't expect they'll find a solution for this. Again, you probably won't. You just have to live with one thing. You're going to have to pick your poison and choose where to die. And if that's me, we die with Rudy Gobert. And when I say that, I mean on the offensive side of the ball, I will let Rudy Gobert be the guy that tries to kill us. Everybody else, hell no. Rudy, yeah. The torture chamber, you need to get yourself together because in this game, I lost out on wondering who was defending Anthony Edwards until I remembered, oh wait, it's meant to be you, but you're doing such a bad job, it looks kind of disgusting. And then as for OKC, as I said before, get Shea off the ball, get someone else to bring it up. But if you manage to fix those points out, Game 4 can be something special. You should be a little bit scared of Anthony Edwards, however, at the same time, I don't know if he can keep the consistency to carry what he did in Game 3 into Game 4, but it should be a good matchup to see. Anyway, those are 10 key points I believe you should know from Game 3 of the Minnesota Timberwolves versus Oklahoma City Thunder. And hopefully, Game 4 is just as interesting as Game 3 was. Anyway, it's been your boy Alvin from L.T.A. Don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more content like it, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel and you ain't done so yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn post notifications on. And lastly but not least, down below in the comment section, let me know who you got in Game 4. I'm going OKC just because, yeah, aggression wasn't there in Game 3, but it will be there in Game 4. As for Terrence Shannon Jr. and the bench, I look forward to seeing how they perform in Game 4. OKC, your bench, yeah, man, that needs to be addressed because, yeah, that was a disappointing performance. But yeah, this has been your boy Alvin. I'll catch you in a bit. Deuces.